All right, I am so excited to be with you. I gotta be honest. Oh man, I missed y'all. Yeah, I missed y'all. I gotta be honest. Thanks, man. I love you too. I have a lot less time, so Evan, I'm gonna be moving a little differently tonight. So please try to stay with me as best you can. Now, when I was in 7th grade, I had math with Mr. Rutherford, and I hated math. Does anybody hate math, or at least think? Or now no, put your hands back down. That's not fair. That's not fair. Instead of wording it and saying that you hate math, how many of you are pretty sure that math hates you? Let's just word it that way. I'm pretty sure that math hates me, okay? With one exception. When I was in 7th grade, I was in Mr. Rutherford's class, and Mr. Rutherford was cool. Mr. Rutherford was that teacher that knew the right way to talk to you with respect and could crack funny jokes and would talk to you like you were like a young adult, not like you were a little kid. And if you didn't understand something but you were being lazy, he would make fun of you in a funny way, you know what I mean? But if you didn't understand it, he would never make fun of you, and he would totally drop everything to super help you. And on top of that, I had 3 of my best friends in 7th grade in my class with me. So how many of you have a class like that where maybe you don't like the class, but the people make the difference? The people make the difference, yeah. There's a reason for that. You might not know this, but the reason for that is relationships. See, relationships have to do more with helping us enjoy something than anything else. The relationships that you have more to do with helping you enjoy where you have and what you have than anything else you could possibly have. Your relationships are what make all the difference in the world. And here's the thing that we're gonna talk about very briefly tonight, because we had a lot of fun with games, but it's caused us to run a little bit late. So I'm just gonna be super focused tonight in what we talk about, okay? I'm gonna be super focused. See, real relationships impact our lives, and connecting with God starts with a relationship. See, here's the thing about a relationship. A relationship is supposed to make you better. That's what a relationship is supposed to do, okay? And so one of my favorite books in the Bible, and we're gonna be talking in the Bible a lot more together this month, but in the book of Proverbs, there's all these pieces of advice in there. And in Proverbs 27:17, we read from one of the wisest dudes ever. He writes, "As iron sharpens iron, so is one person to another." Your relationships are supposed to make you sharper and better. The way that if you're an athlete and you wanna get better at your sport, you try to play with people who are as good or better than you. If you're a musician, you try to play with people who are as good or better than you. If you're a performer, if you're a competitor, if you're a dancer, you wanna be with people who are as good or better than you. Because as iron sharpens iron, so is one person to another. That is a truth. But here's the thing. Relationship is something that's been happening from God's standpoint all the way back from the beginning of all things. What he has literally done with us ever since the beginning of time is to show that he wants to have relationship with us. In fact, what I call the football game verse is John 3:16. And the reason I call it the football game verse is because if you're watching an NFL game at any given time, it seems like there's always some dude in the crowd holding up a sign saying, John 3:16. And some of you are thinking, whoa, that's weird. Why is somebody showing their license plate number on national TV? That's just awkward. But instead what it is it's a Bible reference. It's John 3:16. It's a very famous verse. Jesus is having a conversation with a really smart church guy, and he's explaining to him in a really, really brief statement what God has always wanted. It's that God loved us as people. He wanted to have a relationship with us so much that he had a design, a plan, a dream, that rather than people trying to figure out how to be perfect, that they would put their faith in God's love for them, that made them good enough. And that's a really big deal because we live in a world where people try to figure out how to be perfect. They work on their image before they take a picture of themselves and post it on social media. They check themselves 4 times before they leave their house to make sure that their shirt matches with their shoes, or that their hat's tilted just right, or that their shoes are clean and they don't have to spot check them on the way out. And I'm talking about the dudes right now. I haven't even started talking about the ladies yet. Okay? Because I know some of you ladies take a long time to get ready to go. Oh my gosh, this has a spot in it. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna wear? Mom, I don't know what to wear. Anyway, here's the thing. Someone in relationship values the other person and looks for good things to do for them. Someone who follows life according to a list, instead they look for what they have to do next. And when it comes to faith, when it comes to God, a lot of people have bought into this lie where they think that they have to follow lists instead of just putting their faith in love. So all people have to make a decision about Jesus. This is one of the things I love most about you as a middle school student. This is the first time in your life where you have the ability to start making decisions that will literally affect the rest of your life. Did you know that? Research actually says that starting at about age 11, you start making serious decisions that will affect the way you view yourself, the world, and those around you for the rest of your life. And that being said, you and me have to answer a very, very clear decision. In Matthew chapter 16, Jesus turns to his disciples, his closest followers, his friends, those that have been following him everywhere he goes. And he asks them, what do people say about me? Who do they think I am? Because even today, we live in a world where people say a lot of things about who Jesus is. Did you know that the Muslim holy book, the Quran, talks about Jesus? Did you know that? It's true. You can look it up. The Muslims have an opinion about Jesus. Our Hindu friends have an opinion about Jesus. Buddhists have an opinion about Jesus. Atheists have an opinion about Jesus. Everybody has something to say about Jesus. But let me tell you something. Jesus turns to his disciples. In fact, he turns to one specific disciple in Matthew chapter 16, and he turns to Simon Peter and he says, then he asked them, but who do you say I am? And then Simon Peter, who's kind of the oldest guy there, and he was kind of the spokesperson for the group, this is what he said. He says, you are the Messiah, which means you are the chosen one. You are the promised one that would bring balance and love and life and focus and goodness and salvation to us. You would make us perfect so we wouldn't have to try to be perfect anymore. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And this is what Jesus says. He says, you are blessed, Simon, son of John, because by my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. That is amazing to me. See, you and me, we all have to make a decision about who Jesus is. Every single one of us. You're gonna fall into a lie where you think it's gonna be about a list. See, this is what I'm the most worried about. I'm actually worried that you're gonna fall into this lie that you think it's a list, but instead it's supposed to be love. That you have a relationship with Jesus where you let him speak into your life and you get to know him and you spend time with him, and instead of just talking to yourself, you actually talk to him. And instead of worrying about things, you bring your worries to him. And instead of beating yourself up for times you blew it, you actually talk to him and you ask him to forgive you, because he's the only one who can forgive you. See, when I was actually 13, I had a lot of shame in my life. I pretended to be one person at church and was another person around a group of friends at school. And I walked around with a lot of shame and embarrassment and looking over my shoulder to make sure that the church people couldn't find out who the school people was, and having to find out like what it was like if mom and dad found out what I was really doing, you know? And I beat myself up for it, because I was being two different people. And I look back and I wish that I had had a real relationship with Jesus. I wish, rather than worrying and stressing and feeling guilty and shamed, that I had a relationship with him. Rather than worrying, that I talked to him about my worries. Rather than trying to be perfect, that I trusted the fact that because of Jesus, he saw me as perfect. Because there's only one person that's ever walked the earth, and that was Jesus. And this is what it says in Romans 10, verse 9. This is an important truth for you and me to remember and to believe. In Romans 10:9, we read, if you openly declare that Jesus is Lord, which means you believe that he's boss, that he's king, that he's supreme, and you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you'll be saved. It means that you don't have to prove yourself to God. It means that you don't have to try to be perfect. Everybody on this planet has to do something with that statement. You either have to choose to believe it or to turn away from it. Did you know that? Because that is a fact. And I can tell you that that's a fact that I've literally bet my entire life on. It's a bet that I've followed God's voice in my life to move from California to Texas and move my family here, to be here and to try to serve him as best I can. I trust him enough and I've bet enough of my life on it that I say no to other things to say yes to his thing. Because that's what faith is. If you trust enough, that means that he's the one you trust like that. And you're right in the middle of that age where you have to make the same decision. Not just that you agree with him, not that you think that there's some lists in here that are good to live your life by, but that you believe that he loves you enough that he wants to have a relationship with you, that he wants to talk to you and help you because he loves you, not because you deserve it somehow. And so this is what I'm gonna do with our last moment together. I'm gonna do two things. One is I wanna encourage you as much as I possibly can to come back here either Saturday night or Sunday morning, because we're gonna talk a little bit more about this. And in our small groups, we're gonna start to understand more of what it means to start a relationship with Jesus. And I can't more highly encourage you to come and spend time with us in that moment and learn more about it. That's the first thing I'm gonna do. And here's the second thing I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna pray with us here for a moment. And I'm gonna do something a little different than what we normally do. I'm gonna ask you to join me in a prayer and to say a prayer with me. Because what the promise is in Romans 10 verse 9 is that if you confess with your mouth and you believe in your heart that you're saved, which means you're starting a relationship with Jesus. And I believe that there's people in this room who genuinely believe that God's real, who genuinely want to do what's right, but you've never been given an opportunity to just stop and say, God, I think you're real. I love you, and I want to start a relationship with you. And I want tonight to take an opportunity to do that. And if, when we pray this together, you've never prayed this prayer before, I want you to come up to me afterward, and I want to talk to you for just a moment, and I want to get your name so that I can be praying for you. Because this moment here is a big deal, because everyone has to start with a relationship with Jesus in order to really connect with him and to have there be a decision that changes almost every other decision in your life. This decision is the biggest one.